You didn't walk away from God. You just learned how to live without needing him. There's a version of your life where everything looks solid, but your relationship with God is quietly deteriorating. Not because you walked away, but because you learned how to function without staying connected. And the scariest part is, it feels absolutely normal. You didn't become irresponsible. You became reliable. And somewhere in that, you lost something you didn't realize you were trading, because now everything gets handled, but nothing really gets felt. From the outside, it looks like strength, and in many ways it is. But there's a shift that happens over time, and most men never notice where it begins. You stop relating to God and you start managing your life instead. You still believe, you still show up to church, you still identify as a man of faith, but something underneath that feels different, less alive, less present, more structured. Like your faith has been reduced to something you maintain instead of something you live from. And here's what's subtle about it. Nothing breaks. Your family is still provided for. Your work still moves forward. Your discipline is still intact. So there's no external signal telling you something's off. But internally, there's a low-level tension that doesn't leave. Not overwhelming, not drastic, not dramatic, just constant. There's a reason for that. When you consistently operate in performance mode, that is, producing, solving, executing, your nervous system adapts to that state. It gets efficient at output, but not at presence. And presence is where connection happens, not just with people, with God. So what starts to happen is this. You begin living from a place of control instead of relationship. You start solving your life instead of walking through it. And again, this doesn't look like failure. It looks like capability, which is why it's so easy to miss. But your body doesn't miss it. Your mind might justify it, but your body keeps track. When you override what you feel, it doesn't disappear. It stays active in your system, and over time, that becomes your baseline. So now you're living in a state where you're handling everything, but not actually experiencing much. You're there, but not really there. Conversations happen, but you're half a step removed. Even in the moments that should land, well, they don't fully land. You're moving forward, but not really connected. You're disciplined, but not at peace. And this is where your faith starts to drift. You're not trying to rebel. You're not trying to walk away, but it's distant. You didn't leave your faith. You stopped bringing your full self into it. Your prayers become shorter, more functional, less honest. Silent feels inefficient. Stillness feels unnecessary. And slowly, without realizing, God becomes something you reference instead of someone you actually relate to. You start trusting your structure more than your surrender. And again, this doesn't trigger alarms because everything still works. But there's a line that gets crossed. It's not visible externally. It's internal. It's the moment your life becomes something you manage instead of something you're being shaped through. And if you felt that quiet sense that something's slightly off, even though you can't point to anything being wrong, you're not crazy. You're not ungrateful. You're not failing. You're just misaligned. And misalignment isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. Because the solution here isn't to do more. It's not to add another habit or increase your discipline or optimize your routine. That's a trap. You don't fix spiritual misalignment with better performance. You fix it by returning to the connection. And connection doesn't start with perfection. It starts with honesty. Real, unadulterated honesty. The kind most men avoid. Not, I'm doing fine, things are busy. Not surface level check-ins, but saying things like, I don't feel present. I feel disconnected. I don't know how to slow down. I don't even know what I'm carrying anymore. That type of level of honesty is what we're looking for, because here's what's true. You can't be aligned with God if you're not honest with him. And you can't be honest with him if you're not willing to slow down enough to actually see what's going on inside of you. That's where most men stop, because slowing down feels like losing ground. It feels like falling behind. It feels like things might slip. But in reality, it's the only place where alignment gets restored. Not in movement, in stillness, not in control, in complete surrender. And I know those words can feel super abstract. So let's make this a little bit more practical. Alignment looks like this. You stop performing in your relationship with God. You stop trying to get it right, and you start showing up just who you are and as you are. You're not polished. You're not figured out. You're not in control. You're just sitting in the present, because the goal isn't to impress God. It's to walk alongside of him. And walking requires presence. It requires space. It requires you to actually be there, not just physically, but also internally. And that's where most high functioning men struggle, because you've built your life on staying ahead, being prepared, staying in control. But alignment with God doesn't happen ahead of the moment. It happens inside of it, which means you have to come back, not to a system, not to a structure, but to a connection, to a relationship. And relationships don't run on performance. They run on presence. So if something in this resonates, if you felt that quiet tension, that subtle disconnect, that sense that your life works, but something feels off, please, please, please don't ignore it. Not because something is wrong with you, but because something is trying to get your attention. You don't need more effort. You don't need more structure. Just a return to what you've been avoiding. And if you're in a place where you can feel that, but you don't fully know how to navigate it, click the link below. Let's get clear on what you're carrying and what's actually yours to lead.